What would you do if your brother got handed a shiny brand new BMW while your own graduation present turned out to be your parents' crushing debt? Would you smile and swallow it, or walk away from your entire family forever? I thought I knew the answer until the day I opened that envelope and everything in my life changed. I never pictured myself being the one who'd actually cut ties with my own blood. I always thought I'd be the good son, the one who stuck around no matter what, pitched in when things got rough, and stayed loyal to my parents until the end. But money has this ugly way of peeling back masks, and the moment it got involved, I finally saw my family for who they really were. My name's Daniel, and I've got a twin brother named Jason. From the time we were kids, it was clear we weren't treated the same. Jason was the golden boy, the athlete, the popular kid, the one who never seemed to do any wrong in mom and dad's eyes. Me? I was the quiet one. I'd rather bury myself in books than run laps. I loved tinkering with computers while Jason was out chasing cheers at parties. And it's not like I hated him for it, I didn't. But deep down, I always knew, between the two of us, he was their favorite. Still, even with that truth hanging over me, I never imagined things would go this far. Graduation day rolled around, and we both walked across the stage together. Same college, same day, it should have been a huge family moment, the kind of thing parents dream about. Jason had gone the straight and narrow path with his business degree, while I had taken a different route. When I was 16, I'd already started hustling online, freelancing, grinding, saving every dollar I could stash away. By the time we tossed our caps in the air, I wasn't rich, but I had built a comfortable cushion of savings. Enough to breathe easy, at least. The day after graduation, that's when the storm hit. My parents threw Jason this big surprise, a brand new, sleek black BMW. He was over the moon, jumping like a little kid, hugging them like they'd just handed him the deed to a mansion. And me? I clapped, I smiled, I even felt happy for him. But in the back of my mind, one question kept eating at me: what about me? I wasn't expecting a car, not my style. Maybe a nice watch, a heartfelt letter, or even just hearing, "We're proud of you, son." That would have meant the world. But then my dad handed me an envelope. The second it touched my hands, this weird pit dropped into my stomach. Something didn't feel right. I tore it open and froze. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't money. It wasn't even a card. It was a bill. A long, itemized list of numbers, loans, balances, debt. My debt? No. Theirs. What is this? I asked, my voice caught between confusion and dread. My mom's face lit up like she had just given me the gift of a lifetime. It's only fair, Daniel. You've been working for years, saving so much. It's time you helped the family out. My dad nodded like it was the most natural thing in the world. Jason doesn't have anything saved up yet. He needs help getting started in life. But you're responsible. You've got money. This is just a small way for you to contribute. I swear, in that moment, I felt my blood run cold. They didn't give me a gift. They handed me their baggage. They shoved their failures in my lap while Jason drove off in his luxury car. And the worst part? They actually thought this was fair. Jason glanced at me, and for a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd show some guilt. Maybe he'd step in and say, "Hey, this isn't right." But instead, he just shrugged and smirked. "Come on, man," he said casually. "You always say you don't care about money. Why are you making a big deal out of this?" That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the paper in their faces. Instead, I took a long breath, folded the bill neatly, slid it back into the envelope, and looked at both of my parents with the calmest voice I'd ever used. "Thank you for this," I said. "It's a real eye-opener." My mom's face lit up again, clueless. "I knew you'd understand." I forced a smile back. But inside? I was already gone. That night, I packed my bags. No fighting, no arguing, no dramatic goodbye. I just walked out the door. They didn't even try to stop me. Maybe they didn't believe I'd actually go through with it. Maybe they thought I'd cool off and crawl back the next morning. But they were wrong. 2 weeks later, my phone started buzzing. At first, I ignored it. 1 missed call. 2. By the third, my voicemail was stuffed with messages from my parents, Jason, even my aunt. The early messages were lighthearted. "Hey, Daniel, just checking in. Call us back." Then they got sharper. "Daniel, why aren't you answering? We need to talk." And finally, desperate. "Please, Daniel, we didn't mean it like that. Just call us back." But I didn't. Because I knew exactly what they wanted, to sweep it under the rug and pretend nothing had happened. And for once in my life, I wasn't about to give them that satisfaction. For the first time ever, I was putting myself first. The first week away, I stayed in a cheap Airbnb in another city. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I didn't know exactly what my next move would be, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going back. I had enough saved up to buy myself time to figure things out. My parents, though? They weren't so lucky. By the second week, Jason started calling too. His messages were filled with bravado, the same cocky tone he'd always had. "Dude, stop being dramatic. Just come back already." I blocked his number. That's when my mom switched tactics. Her voice suddenly soft, sugary, dripping with fake concern. "Daniel, sweetheart, we're struggling. You know we've always supported you. Can't you just help us out a little?" That line nearly made me laugh. This was the same woman who had looked me in the eye and smiled while handing me a bill instead of congratulations. Now she wanted sympathy? But then, the real panic started. One evening, while I was sipping cheap coffee at the Airbnb, I opened my laptop to check emails. That's when I saw it, subject line, "Please read this." It was from my dad. I hovered over the delete button, but curiosity got the better of me. I clicked. "Daniel," the email began, "we're in trouble. We took out some loans we can't pay back. We thought we could manage, but things are getting worse. Jason doesn't have the means to help us, and we thought you wouldn't mind. You've always been so independent, so responsible. We misjudged. For that, we're sorry. But we need you. Please, at least call us back." I stared at the screen for a long time. It was the first time they'd even come close to admitting they were wrong, but it wasn't an apology. Not really. They weren't sorry for treating me like a backup plan my whole life. They were sorry because I had finally walked away, and now their golden boy couldn't save them. For years, I had been the responsible one. I had watched Jason get everything while I picked up the slack. And now, when their reckless choices had come crashing down, who did they run to? Not Jason. Me. Always me. I closed the laptop without replying. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't my parents. It was my aunt. For the first time, I hesitated before ignoring it. My aunt wasn't really part of the drama. She had always been the quiet peacemaker, the one who tried to smooth things over when the tension got too high. I sighed and swiped to answer. "Daniel?" Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "Yeah, it's me. Can we talk for a minute?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. "About what?" "About your parents. They're worried about you." I let out a short laugh. "Yeah, I know. But let's be honest, Aunt Karen, they're more worried about themselves right now." There was a long pause on the other end. "Please, Daniel, don't be like this. They made a mistake. They thought you would understand. They didn't mean for things to spiral this way." I could hear the desperation in her voice, but I wasn't backing down. Not after everything. Not now. I took a slow breath and asked the question that had been burning in my chest for weeks. "Why, Aunt Karen? Why buy Jason a luxury car if they were drowning in debt? If they're struggling, how does that make sense? How could they possibly think that's okay?" Silence. Then finally, her voice cracked. I don't know, Daniel. They thought they could handle it. They wanted Jason to feel special, to celebrate his graduation. They never imagined you'd leave over it. Her words hit hard, but they didn't change a thing. My parents had always put Jason first, showered him with whatever he wanted, no matter the cost. And me? I was just the safety net, the one expected to clean up their mess. And what about me? I snapped, the bitterness spilling out before I could stop it. What did I get for graduating? A bill? A damn bill for their debt? The line went quiet. They didn't know how to show you they were proud of you, Daniel, she whispered finally. They thought you'd understand because you've always been the responsible one. But they were wrong. They regret it now. They really do. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. It's not about understanding, Karen. It's about respect. It's about how they've treated me my whole life. Jason gets cars and praise, and I get handed their problems. I've had enough. There was a long silence on the line, and then Aunt Karen sighed. Daniel. I think they're finally realizing how badly they messed up. They just don't know how to fix it. Please, come home. Let them make it up to you. Her words hung heavy in the air, and for the first time in weeks, a tiny part of me softened. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe my parents were capable of change. But after everything they had done, after years of favoritism, years of me being the one carrying the load, how could I? Maybe, I said slowly, but only if they prove it. This can't just be another excuse, Karen. If they really want to fix things, they need to show me they mean it. She sounded relieved, almost as if a weight had been lifted. Thank you, Daniel. I know this isn't easy. Before I could reply, she added softly, there's something you should know. Jason's been calling me too. He's asking if you'll come back. He's not as indifferent as you think. I frowned, caught off guard. Really? Jason's actually concerned? Yes, she said quietly. But it's more than that. He's starting to see the bigger picture. He's realizing how much you've done for the family, and how much he's taken for granted. I leaned back in my chair, my mind spinning. Jason, the golden child, finally waking up to reality? It sounded almost laughable, too good to be true. But maybe, just maybe, there was a crack in his perfect little world. I didn't know if I was ready to believe it yet. Still, something told me this wasn't over. This story, my story, was about to take another turn. The days dragged on, and I stayed holed up in my little Airbnb, lost in my thoughts. I still refused to pick up calls from my parents. But then something unexpected happened, something that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail. But this time, for reasons I can't explain, I answered. Daniel? The voice on the other end cracked. It was Jason. Yeah, I replied, keeping my tone flat. There was a long pause, and then his voice trembled. Daniel. I'm sorry. But things got worse. I sat up straighter, my pulse quickening. Mom and Dad, they didn't listen. I tried talking to them, but you know how stubborn they are. They kept insisting everything would work out. But now, his voice broke, now they've had to sell the car. My chest tightened. For a moment, I didn't know if I should laugh or feel vindicated. They sold the car? I asked coldly. Yeah, Jason whispered. They didn't have a choice. The bills piled up, and they couldn't keep up with the payments. They sold it to cover some of the debt. It's gone, Daniel. I leaned back, staring out the window at the city lights. A twisted mix of satisfaction and bitterness washed over me. They had chosen Jason. They had rewarded him with luxury while throwing me a bill. And now they were losing it all. I didn't answer right away. Jason's voice shook on the other end, but I just sat there, staring into the dark night outside my window, letting the silence press down on him. They had no choice, Jason said again, his voice cracking. The debt was eating them alive. The car was the only thing they could sell fast. It's gone, man. I don't even know what to say. Finally, I let out a slow breath. My words came out calm, but sharp enough to cut. Jason, you didn't have to lose the car. You should have known this would happen. You should have seen that they couldn't afford it. But you just took it, like you always do, without thinking. And now you're shocked? He didn't answer. They've always expected me to clean up their mess, I continued, my voice growing colder with every word. But this time? I wasn't there to pick up the pieces. And look what happened. The line went quiet except for Jason's shaky breathing. I warned them too, I pressed on, my voice sharp as glass. When they handed me that bill instead of a gift, I told them it would come back to bite them. And now it has. Daniel, please, Jason finally blurted, his voice breaking. I know this is messed up. But they didn't mean for it to turn out like this. We never wanted it to be this way. I almost laughed. We. As if he hadn't been sitting in the driver's seat of that BMW, grinning like a king, while I was handed my parents' debts like scraps. You know what, Jason? I said, my tone flat, almost icy. Maybe this is the lesson they needed to learn the hard way. If they'd been a little more thoughtful, a little less blinded by favoritism, none of this would have happened. I hope it stings. That was when Jason broke. I heard the sobs spill through the receiver, raw and unfiltered. For half a second, I almost felt guilty. Almost. But then I remembered my mom's smug smile as she slipped that envelope into my hands. My dad's proud nod as if he was passing me some sacred duty. Jason's careless shrug when I realized what they'd done. No. I didn't feel guilty. Jason kept crying, his voice trembling as he tried to speak, but I didn't offer him comfort. Not this time. Instead, I ended the call, set my phone face down, and leaned back with a strange, dark sense of relief. For the first time in my life, the scales felt balanced. My family was finally tasting the consequences of their choices, and I wasn't the one stuck cleaning it up. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No more constant buzzing from my phone. No more desperate emails piling up. Just silence. And honestly, it felt liberating. For once, I wasn't tangled up in their chaos. I focused on my work, caught up on projects, and even slept better. The peace was addictive. But peace never lasts long in my family. That Sunday afternoon, my phone lit up with another unfamiliar number. At first, I almost ignored it. My thumb hovered over decline. But then something in me whispered, pick up. Face it. So I did. Daniel? My mom's voice cracked through the speaker. She sounded desperate, like someone who had been crying for hours. Please, can you just hear us out? I didn't respond right away. I leaned back in the chair, exhaling slowly. After everything, after weeks of them pretending I was just being dramatic, now she wanted me to listen? Daniel, we know we messed up, she said quickly, words tumbling out in a rush. We never should have put that pressure on you. We should have been better parents. We're so sorry. Please, come back. We'll fix this. Just come home. Her voice was trembling, begging. But all I could think about was the same woman handing me that envelope with a smile, acting like she had given me some treasure. I laughed, low and bitter. You're sorry, huh? Sorry for what exactly? For buying Jason a car while tossing me your debt? Or sorry because now you had to sell the damn thing? The line went dead silent. I could almost hear her trying to form words, but nothing came out. Finally, she whispered, Daniel, we never meant for it to get this bad. Please, we'll do whatever it takes to make things right. You're still our son. We love you. I rolled my eyes, even though she couldn't see me. It was pathetic, really. Love doesn't erase years of favoritism, Mom. Love doesn't erase the fact that you didn't think about me once when you made those decisions. I let the silence stretch, then added coldly, and you know what? I don't even need your apology. It's too late. You should have thought about this before. That was when I heard another voice slip onto the line, my dad's. His tone was tight, strained, desperate. Daniel, please. We were wrong. We see that now. We never meant for it to come to this. We never meant to drive you away. I let out a dry laugh. You never meant to? You bought Jason a BMW, handed me a bill, and expected me to thank you. That's not an accident. That's a choice. You didn't push me away, you kicked me to the curb. Son, please, his voice cracked, something I'd never heard from him before. We just wanted to give Jason something. We thought it would make him proud of his graduation. But we realize now, it wasn't worth it. Not if it meant losing you. For the first time, I felt it, the power shift. They weren't scolding me, lecturing me, or treating me like the backup plan. They were groveling. And the truth was, it felt good. You're right about one thing, Dad, I said sharply. You lost me. And you don't just get me back because you suddenly feel guilty. I'm not a switch you can flip when it's convenient. The silence on the other end was heavy, almost suffocating. Finally, I cut it off with one last line. I'm done here. Keep your apologies. Keep your guilt. And next time you want to celebrate someone, maybe think about who you're leaving in the dust. And with that, I hung up. I stared at my phone for a long time afterward, the echoes of their begging still rattling in my head. But I didn't feel bad. Not anymore. For once, I had drawn the line, and they knew it. Weeks crawled by after that phone call, and for the first time in my life, my parents stayed quiet. No more desperate voicemails. No more texts begging me to come home. Just silence. And funny enough, the silence was louder than all their chaos ever had been. I settled back into my own rhythm, working, eating when I felt like it, sleeping without guilt gnawing at me. Every day felt like a step further away from their control. I was building something on my own terms, and I wasn't about to let anyone drag me back. Then, one afternoon, a package showed up. The label had my parents' handwriting on it. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. A part of me thought it might be some half-baked scheme, another way of luring me back. But eventually, curiosity won. Inside was a single folded letter. Handwritten. The paper creased and worn from being handled too much. Daniel. We don't expect you to forgive us. We know we hurt you. We've realized we lost something more important than a car or any gift we could have ever given. We just want you to know that we're sorry. We'll always love you, even if you never come back. Please don't forget that. I read it once. Then again. And again. But the truth? I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even relief. Just nothing. It wasn't enough. Not even close. I crumpled the letter, tossed it into the trash, and shut the lid. That was their last card, their last desperate attempt, and it failed. Jason tried too. A few texts slipped through before I blocked him again. Little things like, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to get caught in the middle. But he had already chosen his side. He sat in that BMW while I got handed their debt. He'd shrugged at me when I was drowning. And you don't just erase that with a couple of guilty texts. He'd live with that choice. Just like they would. And me? I kept moving forward. My business grew. My life started to feel like mine for the first time. No strings. No guilt. No debts that weren't mine to carry. My family would always have their regrets. But I didn't have to carry the weight of them anymore. The funny thing about endings is that they don't always feel dramatic when they finally arrive. Sometimes, they're quiet. Subtle. Almost anticlimactic. That's what it was like for me. There was no final screaming match, no dramatic confrontation. Just me, moving forward with my life while theirs unraveled behind them. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger had burned out weeks ago. What I felt now was colder indifference. I kept pouring my energy into my work. My little online business grew steadily, and for the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. I had my own money, my own choices, my own peace. And none of it had strings attached to Jason, or my parents, or the endless cycle of favoritism I'd been trapped in my whole life. As for them, they faded into the background. The silence stretched on. No more calls. No more packages. Just emptiness where my family used to be. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Because the truth was, I had carried their weight for too long. Their mistakes, their debts, their favoritism, it had all been piled on me since the day I was old enough to notice. And for once, I had put it down. Jason kept his distance too. A text here and there slipped through the cracks, sorry, bro, or didn't mean for it to go that way. But I ignored them. He had been sitting in the front row of my humiliation, basking in his shiny car, while I got slapped with the bill. He had chosen his side. And choices come with consequences. The end of this chapter wasn't tragic. It was freeing. Because sometimes the boldest thing you can do is walk away. To stop letting other people's actions dictate your worth. To stop letting your family's mistakes define your future. I finally understood something I wish I'd learned years ago: the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And by walking away, I finally chose me. This wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning of a new one. A story where I wasn't the backup plan. Where I wasn't the forgotten son. Where I wasn't the safety net for everyone else's mistakes. For the first time in my life, I wasn't Daniel, the responsible twin. I was just Daniel. Free. Update. It's been a few months since all of this went down, and honestly, I thought that was the end. I thought my parents would disappear into their mess and Jason would keep pretending nothing was wrong. But life has this way of circling back when you least expect it. Last week, I got another call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd ignore it. But something told me to answer. It was Jason. Only this time, he didn't sound cocky or defensive, or like the golden boy who thought the world owed him everything. He sounded broken. "Daniel," he said quietly, his voice low. "I need your help." I didn't say anything at first. Just sat there, holding the phone, waiting for him to keep talking. "They're in real trouble this time," he admitted. "Mom and Dad. The debt's worse than I thought. They sold the car, yeah, but it wasn't enough. Creditors are after them. They're close to losing the house." I clenched my jaw, trying to process what I was hearing. Part of me wanted to laugh, because hadn't I warned them? Hadn't I told them this would happen? But another part of me felt something heavier. Jason went on. "I know I don't deserve to ask you this. I know I've been blind. But Daniel, I don't know what to do. I've never had to deal with stuff like this. I don't know how to fix it. And they're terrified." For a long time, I didn't speak. All the old bitterness clouded me, gears of being treated like second best, of being handed burdens while Jason got rewards. And now here he was, asking me to save the very people who had thrown me aside. Finally, I said, "Jason, it's not my job to fix their mistakes anymore. Or yours." "I know," he whispered. "But I'm scared, man. I've never seen them like this. I don't even recognize them. They're not the strong parents we grew up with. They're desperate." Hearing my brother, the golden child, sound so lost hit differently. For the first time, I realized maybe he was just as much a victim of their favoritism as I was. They had built him up so high, given him everything without teaching him how to stand on his own, and now he was crumbling because of it. I didn't give him an answer that night. I told him I needed to think. And for the first time since I walked away, I actually did think about going back, not for my parents, but for Jason. Because maybe the truth is, he wasn't the enemy after all. Maybe he was just another casualty of their choices. I barely slept after that call with Jason. His voice kept replaying in my head, cracked, shaky, nothing like the confident brother I'd grown up with. I kept asking myself the same question: was I really ready to let them all crash and burn? On one hand, every part of me screamed yes. After all, hadn't they earned it? Years of favoritism. Years of piling their weight onto me while Jason got all the praise. Handing me their debt like it was a gift. If karma had finally come knocking on their door, wasn't this exactly what they deserved? But then I thought about Jason. The truth was, he'd never been taught how to survive without a safety net. They had raised him to believe the world revolved around him, and now that the world had smacked him in the face, he was lost. Maybe, in a twisted way, Jason had been a victim too. By morning, I'd made my decision. I called him back. He answered on the first ring, his voice raw. "Daniel?" "Listen," I said, keeping my tone firm. "I'm not bailing them out. Not again. But if you're serious about wanting to change, if you actually want to stand on your own 2 feet, I'll help you. Not them. You." Jason went quiet for a long moment. Then, in the smallest voice I'd ever heard from him, he said, I want that. I don't want to be like them. I want to do better." So I laid it out for him. "You're going to learn how to handle your own money. How to work for what you want. No more handouts. No more excuses. If you can do that, I'll help guide you. But if you're just looking for someone to swoop in and save you, don't call me again." He agreed. And for the first time, I actually believed him. As for my parents? They're still in the hole they dug for themselves. I haven't spoken to them, and I don't plan to. Maybe someday, when they've proven they're more than their bad choices, I'll reconsider. But right now? They're living with the consequences they handed me in that envelope. This isn't the ending I expected, but maybe it's the one I needed. Because the truth is, family isn't about blood, it's about respect, effort, and love that isn't conditional. My parents failed me there. Jason did too, but he's trying. And that's something. So no, I didn't save my family. I saved myself. And maybe, just maybe, I'll help my brother learn to save himself too. And you know what? That feels like enough. Still breathing, Noah.